Hello, welcome to our lesson video of Surrealism. Let's get started. The art TEKS for this lesson is TEKS 2, Creative Expression. The student communicates ideas through original artworks using a variety of media. The student expresses thoughts and ideas creatively while challenging the imagination, fostering reflective thinking, and developing disciplined effort and progressive problem-solving skills. The student is expected to A. Integrate ideas drawn from life experiences to create original works of art. Ooh, let me take a breath. Okay, this week's objectives and goals. By the end of this lesson, you will know how to explain what surrealism is. You will be able to identify surrealist artists. You will also learn and practice using your materials properly. Lastly, you will create a surrealist artwork that incorporates surrealism characteristics. Alright. So what is surrealism? Surrealism was an artistic, literary, and philosophical movement in which people wanted to find truth in the world through the subconscious, mind, and dreams. The movement not only included artists, but it also included poets and writers too. So, what is the subconscious? The subconscious is the part of your mind which operates without you even knowing it, and you can't control it. The part of your mind that creates your dreams is an example of your subconscious. Did you know you had a subconscious? So your subconscious mind is responsible for your imagination, your habits, your beliefs, your emotions, your values, your protective reactions, your intuition, and your long-term memory. Your conscious mind is something that you can control and work on. That includes your willpower, your short-term memory, your critical thinking you use in school every day, and your logical thinking that you also use all the time. So now that we know that, what is the goal of surrealism? The goal of surrealism is to liberate thought and expression. This means your artwork does not have to make any sense. You can create your own world without any boundaries or limitations. To help you understand better, here are some descriptive words of surrealist artwork. Random, dreamlike, unexpected, illogical, beautiful, fantasy, absurd. The Surrealist movement was so powerful that someone even wrote the Surrealist Manifesto. So what's a manifesto? It's a written document that declares what someone or a group of people's philosophy and beliefs are. The Surrealist Manifesto was written by French poet André Breton. In his manifesto, he states that the best way to be inspired by art is through your dreams. He also stated that surrealism wasn't just an art or poetry. Surrealism is a way of life and a way of thinking. Next, let's look at some surrealist artists. Wait a second, why is this upside down? Okay, that's better. I wonder why it was like that. So the reason that slide was upside down is because in 1936, oh my gosh, that was 84 years ago, a surrealist artist named Salvador Dali was a guest speaker at an event in London, England. And you know what he was wearing? He was wearing an old-fashioned scuba suit. A scuba suit. And then he had slides in the background for his presentation. And those slides, they were all upside down. The reason the slides were upside down and he was wearing a scuba suit is because Salvador Dali was trying to do things that were unexpected, kind of crazy or absurd. So surrealism wasn't always in painting, and it wasn't always in poetry or writing. It was also in theater or in performances. That's some pretty cool stuff. So the artist we just talked about was Salvador Dali, and he was Spanish. The first painting we're going to look at is the persistence of memory. So what makes this painting surreal is that the clocks are perfectly normal, except they are all melting, and this symbolized his struggle with time. Now look at the background. It also can be called the setting or the environment. And the environment Dali painted is the desert. You can see the sand he painted down there and the canyon in the background. Now usually clocks and deserts aren't two things you see together in everyday life. Surrealist artists like to put two things together that don't usually belong. Next, we're looking at the elephants. This painting right over here. So Dali painted 2 elephants carrying some supplies throughout the desert during a sunset. What makes this a surrealist painting is the long, skinny legs Dali painted for these elephants. Next, we are looking at René Magritte. He was a Belgian artist. The first painting we're going to look at is the one on the left, called The Treachery of Images. So Magritte would try to mix together and join his dreams and fantasy with everyday life and objects. So the everyday objects in this painting are the pipe and the candle. What makes it surreal is that his nose is melting into the pipe. Yuck! And the candle is melting and wrapping around the table. You see that? Like a snake. Now we're going to look at the painting on the right. It is called The False Mirror. From far away, it looks like a really nice painting of an eyeball, right? But when you look closer, you see that the color of the eye is actually the sky. And that's what makes it surreal. Those 2 artists that we looked at, they like to take everyday objects, animals, or things and melt them. That is one of many ways that you can make your art piece surreal. Whew. Okay, we're back to normal. Oh, that felt surreal. The next artist we're looking at is Dorothy Tanning, and she was an American artist. The first painting we're going to look at is the one on the right, called A Mrs. Radcliffe Called Today. This painting was inspired by a story of a girl trying to escape a scary castle in France. What makes this painting so surreal is that the castle and the whole painting doesn't really seem to make sense, right? What? Alright, so when you look at the left side of the painting, you'll see a really large arch. When you look through the arch, you see that you are outside, there's a figure walking towards you, and the sky is blue, so it's during the day. Now on the right side, you can see that it is much darker in this world. This is an example of how surrealism doesn't have to make sense. Next, we are looking at the truth about comets. What makes this painting a surrealist painting is that the figures do not have legs. Instead, they kind of turn into worms or snakes. Also, look at those stairs. The stairs don't lead to anywhere, and they also turn into a tree. Those are stairs that you would see in something like a dream, but not in real life. The next artist we're looking at is Vladimir Kush, and he's a Russian artist. The first painting we're going to look at is on the left, called The Sunrise by the Ocean. Instead of the sun rising, it is actually a huge egg. You can see the yolk in the middle, and on the sides is the actual eggshells. An egg in paintings usually symbolizes the beginning of life and the rising sun. You can see how large the egg is by looking at the figure walking on the left. Look how tiny he is. Now on the right, we are looking at the departure of the winged ship. What makes this painting surrealist is that instead of sails, there are butterflies, and they are huge. In Japan, the image of a butterfly can symbolize the best moments in life. Water break. Remember to stay hydrated and take care of your body. The next surrealist artist we're going to look at is Juan Mijo, and he was a Spanish artist. We're going to look at the person throwing a stone at a bird. Please don't ever throw stones at birds or animals. That's so mean. Ouch! What makes this painting surreal is that you can't really tell what it is. Once you know the title, you can kind of see it. You see how that weird peach-colored shape is a person. You can see his foot right there. In the middle is the stone that he's throwing, and on the left is the bird he's throwing it at. This next artist is called Mireille Oppenheim, and she was a Swiss artist. The story behind this artwork is that Mireille was at a cafe in Paris with Pablo Picasso. She was wearing a fur bracelet, and Picasso joked about making everything in fur. This gave Mireille an idea. She made a furry plate, a furry teacup, and a furry spoon. This is an example of how surrealism can be a sculpture too. She took objects that you see and use every day and made it a surrealist piece by putting fur on it. It's unexpected and absurd, because now you can't use them. Ooh, okay, you guys. We have 2 more artists left, so let's take a quick stretch break. And then breathe in, breathe out. Take another sip of water. The second to last artist we're going to look at is Lenora Carrington, and she was a British-Mexican surrealist artist. The first painting we're going to look at is the fantastic figures on horseback. Leonora was known for making surrealist paintings about the unconscious mind and dream-like imagery. She was also known for making hybrid figures, which are figures that are half human and half animals, which you can see in that painting. The environment or background for this painting is a forest. You can see the trees in the landscape. What makes it surreal is that she only uses blue and white to paint her forest, which is very dreamy. Next, we are looking at the giantess, or the guardian of the egg. This artist also liked to play with size in her paintings. The size of the giant can be seen how tiny the trees are and the people are, and how the birds are also small and flying up in the sky near her. Sometimes size is something you can play with in your paintings to make it surreal. The last surrealist artist we are looking at today is Nathaniel Mary Quinn, and he is an American surrealist. We will be looking at both of his paintings today at the same time. Nathaniel is an example of a surrealist artist that created collages. He created surrealist collages. He cut out different pieces from magazines, paintings he created, and drawings he created, and glued them together to create a surrealist face. He also liked to play with line and split up his paintings into different sections. When you finish this video, you can go to part 2. In part 2, we're going to talk about the project and the instructions for the project.